Hello, welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about talk. This is the 5th time I've tried to do this intro, and I cannot form words with my mouth right now. Hello, welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today is a very pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things. And on this pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things, we have many stuffs and things to talk about, including upcoming videos, things that you can look forward to on Stuff and Things and Stuff and Things Plays. I'm going to have to do a crazy, unhinged rant about a recent bill that has just passed the US Senate about permanent daylight savings time. I have some opinions about this. We're going to briefly talk about the NFL again and the Seahawks, don't worry. And then we're going to get into a little bit of the video that we'll be posting this Wednesday on why you may not want to get into the pipe hobby. We talk about pipes all the time on this channel, but it might not be for you. And we'll talk a little bit about why that is. The main video is going to be Wednesday, but we'll get a little preview, I can't talk right now. We'll do a little preview on that video in this episode. And then of course we have your feedback and questions in hashtag askstuffandthings. Oh Lord, so if I can actually speak, we will get into it now. I don't know what's going on. I was just recording the video for this Wednesday and I was stumbling over every single word I was trying to say. I don't know if maybe I've had a mild stroke or something, but we're gonna try to get through this. By the way, if you notice the aspect ratio, or not the aspect ratio, but the framing is a little bit different. I'm trying out a different camera lens. It's a 50mm prime lens. Just wanna see how it looks when we record the videos with this. Anyway, upcoming videos. On Stuff and Things, I've already kind of mentioned it, but this Wednesday, I've done lots of pipe videos on this channel, but I'm going to do a video this Wednesday about why you may not want to indulge in the pipe hobby. I think that could be quite interesting, maybe inspire a little bit of debate in the comments and everything, so we'll get into that a little bit more later on in this video, and then that main video will be this Wednesday. And then of course, we have Deathloop series continuing. Please watch that, please. And then of course also Elden Ring continuing on Stuff and Things Plays. Elden Ring is maybe the best game ever made. Those are bold words, especially because I've hardly played the game so far. I mean, I've done, I don't know how many episodes now, 14 episodes or so, but I think it is amazing. I think it's a masterpiece already. Obviously, I have to hold off on saying that until I've actually finished the game, but as of now, I think it is fantastic, and the adventures of Kevin the Kurt on Elden Ring are just great. So check that out on Stuff and Things Plays. Won't you? Okay. It's been a while since I've done a rant on this channel, but I feel as though I have to discuss something. Recently, I think Marco Rubio, a senator from Florida, he introduced a bill to the US Senate in which they are going to try to make daylight savings time year-round in the United States. And I've talked about daylight savings time a little bit in the past. We obviously, in the US, we just jumped our clocks ahead. And so for about, I don't even know what it is now. I think 9 months of the year. Is it 9 months of the year? Or maybe 6 months? I don't even know. I think it's in March we jump ahead. Is it October or November that we fall back again? They keep changing it. I don't know. But anyway, during the spring and summer months and into the fall, you have an extra hour of daylight at night. Many people love this, and I guess I can sort of understand it. But what they're trying to do now is make it so daylight savings time is year-round. So in winter, instead of going back to standard time, we would still be in daylight savings time. And I've been reading all these articles, all these different people saying, hey, this is a great idea, let's do this. And it passed, I think, unanimously in the Senate. Still has to go to the House. And I am hoping with all my heart that this doesn't actually pass and become law. And let me outline, see, here we go, outline, I don't know why I can't speak today. Let me try to outline for you some of the reasons I think this is a really bad idea. So, in the US, the US is in the Northern Hemisphere. And in the Northern Hemisphere, in the winter, daylight is fairly limited. Sunrise is typically around 8 o'clock in the morning, especially where I am, which is pretty far north. I'm in the Pacific Northwest near Bellingham, Washington. And so in the wintertime, I wake up at 5:30, it's pitch black out. By the time I'm leaving for work, which is around 7, it's still dark. But by the time we're really getting into work, I work outside, it's around 8 o'clock. If we were to make it so we're in daylight savings time during the winter, it would not be light out until after 9 o'clock in the morning. So it would basically rob me of an hour of productivity every single day. And I would go to work in pitch blackness. I would start work in pitch blackness and not really be able to work because it would be pitch blackness. And I find that ridiculous. In the winter, here in the Pacific Northwest, like I said, sunrise is around 8 o'clock. Sunset is around 4:30 in the afternoon. We have very short days in the winter because we're very far north. So getting an extra hour, so sunrise or sunset would be at like 5:15 or 5:30, does not offset the fact that I would be working in pitch blackness in the morning. And I think a lot of people who think that this would be a great idea, they obviously don't work outside. They don't have to worry about this. They work in offices, or in Marco Rubio's particular situation, he lives in Florida and he lives and works most of the time in Washington, D.C. He's in an office, he's indoors. It doesn't matter to him. It matters to me, and it matters to millions of people who have to work outside. In the summertime, daylight savings time, I could take or leave, because here, again, because we're in the Northern Hemisphere and because I'm particularly far north, it doesn't get dark until almost 10 o'clock at night during the summer, which I think is kind of ridiculous. I would rather not have daylight savings time at all. If we were going to pass a law and get rid of daylight savings time, which I'm actually in favor of, don't go to permanent daylight savings time, go to permanent standard time. For one thing, permanent standard time is much more closely related to the natural world. It's much more closely related to the sun rising and the sun setting. So in the summertime here, it would get dark at like 8:30, which is, I think, fairly normal. I just think there are so many negative health consequences associated with this. We have a circadian rhythm. We have a natural body clock, and it is pretty much attuned to when the sun rises and when the sun sets. So when you have to wake up in the morning when it's pitch black outside, it's so much harder to acclimate to that, to get up and to be actually alert and really awake. And then when you're trying to go to sleep and it's 10 o'clock at night and the sun is still in the sky, it just doesn't work very well. Let's go to standard time. Another reason that I think this is ridiculous is that we've already tried this. We tried this in, I think, 1974. I actually have an article here. This is from, where is this from? I guess this is NBCnews.com by David K. Lee. And he talks a little bit about this initiative or this bill. And then, where is this? Been there, done that. The U.S. adopted year-round daylight savings time once before, from 1974 to 1975, but the change was repealed largely because of parental concerns about schools operating before sunrise. Quote, "We tried it before in the mid-70s during the OPEC oil embargo, and people in the United States did not like it," Watson said. "We've been there before, and we know it doesn't work." Watson, I can't remember who Watson is, he's just somebody in this article. He added, "Standard time is the time that best aligns your body clock with the sun clock, which is the way we've lived for millennia." Yes, hear, hear. Let me just read you a few more highlights from this article. "Children might start going to school in total darkness next year in exchange for more sun later in the day, while their parents commute home from work with the benefit of light. These would be among some of the impacts of ditching standard time and adopting year-round daylight savings time, a change in legislation the Senate passed this week with virtually no opposition. If the, quote, Sunshine Protection Act as written were to gain House approval and President Joe Biden's signature, Americans would fall back this November, spring forward in March 2023, and then never change their clocks again. Keeping daylight savings time through those fall and winter months would push sunrise an hour later, meaning early risers and children who head to school around 7 a.m. would do so in total darkness." Senator Marco Rubio, one of the bipartisan bill's main backers, said he would expect year-round daylight savings time to reduce crime with later hours of sunshine, to decrease child obesity by encouraging kids to play later into the day, and put a dent in seasonal depression rates. No, it wouldn't. Because, okay, so it's lighter at night, but it's darker in the morning. People have to get up and do things in the morning. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Among the most ardent opponents of year-round daylight savings time are doctors and researchers with the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. Sunlight activates key hormones that fuel a person's activities for the day, and the earlier that process starts, the better. Melatonin, which is key to falling asleep, is triggered after the sun sets, so the earlier that happens, the longer the runway towards a good night of shut-eye. Going to daylight savings time year-round is a really bad idea, said Dr. Nathaniel F. Watson, a spokesman for the Sleep Academy, who is a neurologist at the University of Washington Medical Sleep Center. If we do this, it's essentially dosing the entire United States with jet lag, permanent jet lag. And I wholly agree. I think daylight savings time is not really very necessary in our society anymore. I know they say it would save energy, but it's not as though I'm not using lights at night in my apartment. I'm not, the fact that the sun is up for another hour, I'm still using appliances, I'm still using indoor lights. I still have to have lights on in my house. And in the morning, especially, I have to have lights on. It doesn't make any sense. I don't think it's a good idea, and I hope to hell that they do not pass this permanent daylight savings time nonsense. End of rant. Okay, I spent a lot of time on that. Hopefully you found that interesting. I just have to briefly mention the Seahawks. I'm even more annoyed with them because I have heard, maybe you have heard by now, Deshaun Watson, who is accused by, I think, 30 different women of sexual misconduct. He actually has been traded to the Browns now. They have offered over $200 million. They basically are rewarding him with tons of money for being horrible or allegedly doing horrible things. But I heard that the Seahawks were actually in the running to try to get Deshaun Watson. And the fact that they would do that, I just find annoying. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And that, coupled with them ditching their franchise quarterback, as annoying as Russell Wilson may have been internally, and we're getting some stories now that he was just irritating, I guess, to Pete Carroll and John Schneider and the ownership, fine, I don't care. I don't want just Deshaun Watson on the Seahawks. I'm glad he's not going to be on the Seahawks, but the fact that they were looking into him, trying to get him, screw off. Do you care at all about the fans? Do you care at all about how you're perceived? Do you care what the fans want? And it's just this weird disconnect, or the cynicism within the NFL, I think, where it's winning at all costs. But the fans don't really believe that, or the fans don't really think that way. The fans would like their teams to win. They would like them to go to the Super Bowl. But I think most people would say they would like that to happen with some integrity and with some loyalty. And this just doesn't show that. And so I don't know what the Seahawks have planned at quarterback, but I'm really feeling kind of detached and checked out now. And I don't know what they could do to bring me back in, but maybe just regime change. I don't know. But right now, it's looking like next year I'm not going to be super invested in what the Seahawks do. And I feel really sorry for the Browns and the Browns fans, because how do you root for that team after this? It's just really gross. Okay, so I don't want to get too involved in this because we have the video coming out Wednesday about why you may not want to enjoy the pipe hobby. But I thought I'd use this opportunity to have some of you chime in the comment sections below. I went through 6 different main points in that video. And just a little preview, I talked about it as more of a hobby, not a habit. I think at least for me personally, that's how I like to indulge in it. And so I get into some of that a little bit, but then some of the points I mentioned, you may not want to get involved in the pipe hobby if you are an impatient person. That's something we may be able to discuss in the comments below, because it takes time. You have to be able to, put aside 30, 40 minutes at least to enjoy a pipe, and if you don't have that kind of time or you don't have the kind of patience needed to, to pack and tamp and do all the things that you need to do, then it might not be for you. I also talked about if you're not the kind of person who's willing to do some research, you have to learn about it. You have to know how to do it properly. And I know some people are really restrictive about what properly means as far as this hobby goes. I'm not as pedantic as that about it, but you definitely have to kind of know what you're doing. And I have some other points in this video that I'm really looking forward to hearing your comments on those points when the video posts this Wednesday. But just sort of preliminarily, if you have some things that occur to you as to why someone might not want to get into the pipe hobby, leave them in the comment section below, because I think it would be a fun discussion to have, and then I can include that in the feedback section next week. Thank you. All right, but let's get into hashtag askstuffandthings. Remember, if you have a question for me and you would like it answered on the Sunday Stuff and Things, tweet at SAT Bradley with the hashtag askstuffandthings. Also, if you are a Patreon supporter, you can write to me on Patreon and I will answer your question on Sunday Stuff and Things. And you can also leave comments on my YouTube videos and I will go through those and pick out feedback and questions as well. First, via YouTube, we have a question from Gia B, who says, "What is the artwork behind you next to the Japanese artwork? Did you draw it?" This? I think you can see it in frame right now. Yes. This isn't artwork, it is a photograph, and it is a photograph of a jumping spider. That is Judy, the jumping spider, and I think she's adorable. So there you go. So no, I didn't draw it, and it is a jumping spider. Next, we have some feedback from last week's Sunday Stuff and Things. This is from Big Earn Bladesmith. "I don't agree with all my friends." So he's talking about, I talked a little bit about the mask mandate ending in Washington and just put out the idea that even if you don't agree with what I have to say about that particular subject, we can still enjoy each other, be friends, like each other. So Big Earn Bladesmith said, "I don't agree with all my friends 100% of the time. Hell, 2 of my best friends and I have very different political views. That doesn't mean they will ever stop being my best friends. It's easy to do this. It's called being an adult. I like you too, Bradley, and I know I could have friendly conversations based on the differences of our philosophies. It's one of the reasons I watch. Cheers." Thank you, Big Earns Bladesmith, and that's exactly how I feel. It seems it's probably easier for us to do this in our personal relationships than it is, online with, quote, strangers, but there's so many people in my life with whom I disagree rather vehemently on political issues or social issues, all sorts of things, but I can still like them as a human being and appreciate the difference. I can appreciate the fact that we have different ideas and different opinions, and I just hope that that can more permeate the popular culture, the online culture. I don't really indulge in anything like Twitter or social media, and so I don't get too much of that, but I know that it is a major problem in our society where you cannot, if you disagree with someone, it's not just, you can't just chalk it up as, different strokes for different folks. It's, no, you're wrong, you're evil. And I hope that we can sort of put that aside as we mature into this time period in which social media is ubiquitous, which I think is a bad thing, but if it's gonna be here, hopefully we can mature a little bit about it. Next, from Jake Nelson. "So, to balance out any negative comments, I feel the same about the pandemic situation. It's nice to hear someone finally saying it publicly." Thank you, Jake. And yeah, I don't want to get too crazy or get into anything controversial. And basically, if you ever say anything about it, it ends up being controversial. But yeah, I just think that don't be afraid to express your opinion. I think it's fine, unless your opinion is like literally hateful and horrible. Like, it should be fine to just say what you think. If more people said what they thought, I think that this idea of being nervous about expressing ourselves would kind of subside a little bit. Next, from Sedia. From software games are too hard for me. I can't play them. I still do not feel the need for an easy mode since I can enjoy them through streamers like you. So we were talking about whether or not Elden Ring should have an easy mode. Not everyone is for everyone, or not everything is for everyone, and people need to stop feeling entitled or left out just because some things aren't for them. And I agree, and I wouldn't get too strident about that. Like, I can appreciate the fact that some people may want to do something, they might really be interested in it, and then they feel like they can't, like they just don't have the skill or the patience or the time. I can understand that and I can sympathize with that. But I do tend to agree. Like, I don't expect everything to be for me. I know that there are just some things that I can't do or won't do or shouldn't do or won't appreciate or whatever, and that's fine. Next, from Ryan McFadin. I love the new posting schedule. This way I'm actually able to watch these videos on Sunday. And so I'm really looking for feedback on that. I've been posting the Sunday videos earlier now. I've actually been posting all the videos kind of earlier on the days in which they post. So let me know, does the new time on Sunday work for everybody? I think it seems to be going well. I think people seem to be enjoying it, but just let me know in the comments below. Next, we have feedback on the Pacific Northwest place name pronunciation video that I posted last Wednesday that very few people watched, but I'm hoping maybe that'll have some legs because there are some weird names, or at least names that are kind of unfamiliar to a lot of people, and I hear them mispronounced a lot. So we had one from Scott Taylor here. Scott says, helpful. I was born in Richland, Washington and raised in California, but still spent a lot of time in the Pacific Northwest growing up. I knew most of these, but all this time I've been pronouncing Puyallup wrong. See, that's one that I mentioned that is often pronounced incorrectly. Where I grew up, there is a lake called Del Valle. Locals pronounce it Del Val, but I hear all kinds of other ways. So Puyallup is one I mentioned in my video. A lot of people say Puyallup. I don't know. This seems very difficult for people to pronounce because it's not really pronounced the way it looks. So yeah, check out that video if you haven't already. There are some interesting names and you may learn something about how to, well, it's not even necessarily the correct pronunciation, it's just the way people who live in the Pacific Northwest pronounce these names. And last, from Brian Gessinger, Spokane, regionally Spokane. So Spokane is a city in eastern Washington. It is spelled S-P-O-K-A-N-E, so it looks like it should be Spokane or maybe even Spokane or something, but we say Spokane. And he says, it is frequently mispronounced as Spokane. I was surprised at that common errors omission from your list. I was surprised too, Brian, because that is something I definitely should have thought of because, like you said, it is very, very commonly mispronounced. So thank you for the feedback there, and gang, thank you for watching. But before we go, it's time for the very best part of the show, and that is where we thank our Patreon supporters. If you would like to support the channels on Patreon, there is a link in the description box below, and it is super helpful. It helps make this show go. The fancy camera that is filming this video now, the lights that are shining upon me, blends. This isn't a blend that I got for review, it's one that I got myself, but it helps get blends for review, all sorts of things. It is super helpful and it is much appreciated. And every week we shout out those who support the channels at $25 or more a month. People like Kirk Crompton, Private Eye, Glenn, Jason Buckner, Gloria Phillips, Ryan McFadin, Matt Marino, MDoftheNorth, and Kyle. And of course, we'd like to thank the crazy people, the maniacs who support the channels at $100 a month. People like our good friend and award-winning author, Peter Straub, stolid, dependable Bob Magee, the wonderful Mr. Luxurious David Gaudreau, and of course, Ashes of the Phoenix, rising from the ashes to support these channels. Thank you all so much for your support. Thank you all so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and doing all that good stuff. Please check out the video on why you may not want to indulge in the pipe hobby coming up this Wednesday. Check out Deathloop every Wednesday and Saturday on Stuff and Things Plays until that series is done, and then Elden Ring every Monday and Friday, and then it will change to Monday, Wednesday, Friday once Deathloop is over. But it's a fantastic game. You definitely need to check it out. And until next time, until we meet again, I've been your good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things on a very pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things. I think I just said pleasant wrong. I'll see you later. Can't talk.